All right, so I want to lay a bit of a foundation because we're going to be working on the same language over the next 2 days. And I think if I say employee experience, or I say customer experience, and I ask each of you, tell me what that is, we're probably going to get a few answers, not just one. Right, so I want to spend a bit of time just unpacking how we see this and how you see this so that we can get some alignment. Now, what delighted me from the first moment that I engaged with you is that you found a secret that not many other organizations have found, right? And you know that if you get your employee experience right, you will get your customer experience right, and you will start delighting each other and delighting the customer, and your business will grow. So that total experience, I love that. I love that. So I don't know how you got to that, but that's amazing. That's amazing because a lot of people come to us and say, Brandlove, help us with our customer experience because that's going to be sexy. That's going to get us the next prize. That's going to get us up on the #1 place in the brand tracker, right? But often when they invest in customer experience only, it's short-lived because they do the sexy stuff for a short while, but then the employees run out of steam. So I'm really impressed and I'm delighted and I'm excited to see what's going to come out of this journey. So let's unpack it a little bit. All right? So if we talk about customer experience, people have a ton of definitions, right? And if I say anything clever and you want to write it down, do it quickly because the next thing might not be that smart, right? And we've included some notes pages for you at the back. So if during anything I talk about, you want to write something down or you think I should do this at the office, if you feel that there's an action about to be birthed, write it down. All right, and then we're going to collect those at the end of the 2 days. So when people talk about customer experience or employee experience, they think that it's, you know, the functional stuff. If I think about my customer experience when I order a coffee, it's about how the cup feels, how the cup looks, you know, obviously about how the coffee tastes and how the coffee smells and how hot the coffee is. So it's about the tangible things that my brain interprets. But if I get an incredible cup of coffee and the seat I need to sit on is dirty and full of holes, right? My brain interprets that experience as potentially a negative experience, right? If I've got a very grumpy barista that throws the stuff and he looks like, you know, he's about to kill someone, then my brain interprets that as negative. And often people think it's about how people feel about your brand. Now, people don't care about your brand, right? There's one thing they care about, and that's themselves. Okay. So for me, customer and employee experience is how I feel about myself when I'm in an interaction with your brand. So, oh, Marley, should I tell them the story? So my daughter, I've got a wonderful daughter. Her name's Rosalia. She was about 4 or 5 years old. She came home from school with this picture, and she ran to me and she said, Mommy, look. And it was, you know, those dinosaurs with the spines on their back. But she did a superb version of it, right? Spines on the back. It had yellow teeth, spit dripping off the teeth. But there was like lipstick and a dress. And this was it was really, you know, it's my daughter, but it was remarkable. And I said, oh, honey, that is gorgeous. I said like, she said, Mommy, it's you. And I went like, oh hell, do not let your face express what you feel on the inside now. So I put on my my acting face, and I said, "Oh, honey, that is a very interesting portrayal of mommy." I said, "But like every artist, Van Gogh and Michelangelo, they had an inspiration." Tell mommy, what was your inspiration for this? She goes, Mommy, we have to frame it. I go, yes, we can frame it, my darling, but tell mommy, what was the inspiration? She said, Mommy, you remember that day? We went to the shop to take back the vacuum cleaner. She said, you were so angry at that woman. She said, I thought you were gonna eat her. She said, you were so angry that you spit on my one arm, and then I wiped it and I turned my other, and you spit on my other arm. She said, yo, Mommy, that was quite a day. Now, it was a new vacuum cleaner. I just want to put my case forward to you. It was a new vacuum cleaner. I got 3 kids, 3 Jack Russells, right? This thing stopped working. I took it back with the expectation that it's still brand new. They're going to take it. They're going to give me another box. I'm going to go back home, and I'm going to spend the rest of the day vacuuming hair and shit off the floors, right? No, it didn't work like that. She said, no, we've got to send it away. The computer says we've got to send it away. She didn't want to hear my story. So I lost my cool. And I told her where to put the vacuum cleaner. I hope she didn't do that. Because it would have hurt, right? And then I left. And now I have a framed picture of this version of me that I became, right? That I don't like, right? I don't like that woman because she's mean and she loses self-control and she says things that hurts other people, right? And the shop assistant, I'm sure she was just doing a job. She was just a scared shop assistant that was not even going to ask the boss, right? And she just went, I got to do everything in my power not to be eaten alive. Look, she's spitting on her daughter. That's how angry she is, right? So the way I've never ever, Leah's now 12, so it's a number of years back. I've never been back to that shop. Never. Because I'm ashamed, right? And I don't like the person who I became in that shop. They're good, right? They've got good prices, but I've never been back. And that's what we forget. When we think about customer experience, when we think about employee experience, we look at the hardcore stuff, right? Because you're good at spreadsheets, right? We love stuff that we can quantify in a spreadsheet. Some of this is not quantifiable. Some of this is about the stories that you never hear. The employee stories that you never hear about they were afraid. They felt like imposters. They felt like they never fit in. They felt like they couldn't quite be themselves. They felt like every time they swiped their card at the turnstile, they had to leave the real person behind. And then at 5 o'clock this afternoon, when they swipe the card, they can pick up their emotions and their baggage and their real self. This is what Marley and I hear day in and day out from the people in our Brand Warrior program. So, what we are going to be covering today with you is how we can set a target, because it's rare that we decide how we want people to feel. We just let it happen by default, right? Unless you're that man, because he can smile and make everybody around him smile. All right, so for your brand, we want to end up by the end of tomorrow with a target of how you want your employees to feel. And then we can design that, right? So part of the work we're going to be doing with Tlamelo and Karabu and the CX team is to design your employee journey for specific outcomes. We're not just going to let it happen by default. But we want you to tell us what's in that secret sauce. All right, so the customer journey works exactly the same, right? And when you have your employee journey properly designed, when everybody knows what they should be doing, when everybody knows that target, your customer journey is going to reap the benefits of this. Right. So if you follow the advice, if you really go all the way, because we've had many executive and leadership teams sitting in the room, right? And we sing Kumbaya, my Lord, and we love it, right? And it's so nice. But when we leave the room, then things just happen. Reality sets in. And that's really why you've engaged not on a 2-day workshop with us, but a 3-year journey, so that we can make this sustainable, so that we can turn people from ordinary employees into brand warriors that are willing, when the going gets tough, you defend the brand. When the going is good, we celebrate the brand and each other. All right, how does that sound to you? Good. How does that sound? Good. All right. So we want to clarify really the promise that the brand makes to both the employee and the customer. Now, your employee journey work that we're going to be doing will look at, from the moment that someone becomes a potential candidate for your brand to the moment that they become your alumni, right? I heard from someone yesterday that Deb Swanner, and I'm not sure if any of you have moved in that circles or might have come from there, but Deb Swanner has a employee alumni, right? And that employee alumni becomes a talent pool that if they want work done on contract, they go to that employee alumni pool. And that's pretty much what I know, right? But I want to explore that because I think they've got a golden opportunity there of institutional knowledge that they can tap to even after someone has either retired or left to do some other gig. So what we do in each of these stages of the journey is we ask, what is the real essence of what the brand promises, and let's make sure that we understand how to deliver that. Let's also make sure that in each of the moments that we understand what does delight and disappointment look like for the employee, right? I'll never forget, I've got to tell this story. And if at any stage in the next 2 days I insult or upset you, then I love you. Just want to say that, right? And if I haven't insulted or upset you, then you can come and see me tomorrow afternoon before we leave, and I can do that, right? But I was working for a large insurance company. I will disguise brands, right? You can just guess. I was working for a very large insurance company in South Africa, and we dealt with life insurance. And every year they would invite me to the Future Leaders Conference, right? I even got to speak at the Future Leaders Conference one year. I was about 8 months pregnant. I actually thought I was going to give birth on the stage, and I think everybody else was very afraid that that was really gonna happen. So being invited to this Future Leaders Conference, it gave me a little bit of confidence. It gave me maybe a little bit more ambition. And I was in a strategy unit, and I always thought a real job is being in the contact center. Like, that's a real job, right? Don't talk about strategy. Yes, we know our stuff, but that's a real job. So a senior leadership position went open in the call center. And I went like, yes, I'm going to do a real job. I want to be in the trenches there. I want to be supporting my people. I want customers to scream at me, to curse at my grandmother and my other grandmother, and I want to rescue them, right? So we had to apply on the SAP system. We could not apply any other. So I applied on the SAP system, and then we had to check the status on the SAP system. So every morning, I would get in early. I would log on to SAP and go, any moment now, any moment, and it goes pending, right? After about 4 weeks, I get in on that dreadful morning, and I log on, and it says, rejected. And I went like, I'm a future leader. Like, you cannot put rejected on the SAP system. So I go to the toilet, I cry, I wipe my tears, put on my lipstick, I walk to the 5th floor, The carpets are this thick. Bonsais everywhere, right? Little fountain when you walk in. Okay, you get the picture. So I walked to Agberg. Agberg was the head of HR. I walk into Agberg's office. I said, Agberg, I applied for this position in the client contact center. And I had high hopes, but that's not why I'm here. I said, I processed it in the last 10 minutes. I did cry in the toilets. I'm not here to cry. I'm here to volunteer that we change the employee experience. No other employee should see those words next to their name to say, rejected. I said, that sucks. I know that that's not what this brand wants to create. So we embarked upon a project to look at what does the application process look like for employees that have obviously been told by the organization that they are talented, that they are appreciated. What does that journey need to look like so that, that rejected doesn't get through my skin and I eventually leave the organization because I was rejected? Because it didn't make me feel good about myself, right? And I knew it was a system, right? Someone went through the thing and they ticked, right, Lamelo, they ticked the stuff and they went like shortlist and they went like, no, she's too valuable in strategy. Let's not move her to the contact center, right? But nobody had a conversation with me. It was just a flag that was set, right? And it's unintentional. So we're going to work with you to understand all these aspects and to look at even the applicant that don't get the job. What do you want them to say? Do you want them to be on the Mascom network? Do you want them to buy from you, right? So we want to make sure that in every moment we create brand ambassadors, even if they are rejected by the system. So I've lived with a lot of rejection. You can see that I'm fine, right? I came through this pretty okay. But this sounds all nice, right? You're excited about the journey that we're going to go on, right? Everybody looks super intently at me and very excited. But often the problem is not with creating those journeys, right? Often the problem sits here when you look at the business design, right? So have we designed the brand promise appropriately? Have we, got that purpose, the vision, the goals? Have we designed the product so that it doesn't have, things in it that's really hard for employees to sell and hard for employees to defend? And then our culture, there's so much of that DNA that gets permeated through how we interact with each other and the customers. And then our scorecard, our measurements, our data. Sometimes there's physical channels. If I want to see what the real culture is in an organization, I ask for two things. Two things only. I ask for just email exchanges. Just give me the email that has got the longest history in your inbox, where there's lots of replies. Reply all, right? You just give me that, I read it like a murder mystery and I can tell what's going on in your organization. And then I ask, give me your scorecard. And you go, no, we're very committed to our culture. And I go, all right, show me the scorecard. Where is it? Scorecard, and show me the corresponding budget line, right? So that you get absolutely what you measure. You get what you measure. And often, people measure stuff and they get it and they go, well, why don't we get the other stuff? And I go, because it's not in your scorecard. So we also want to help you look at this aspect in the middle that really determines what you're going to get. It's a science and a little bit of magic. All right. So I want to quickly show you just the recipe. Oh, before I go to the recipe, because this is like cooking, right? Who likes food? Seswa is like my favorite dish, right? And we were at a conference 4 years ago, and someone said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take you to my niece's wedding, and you can cook with my grandma. It was somewhere far, far away. And they said, listen, you're going to have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning because we're going to be cooking all day long. and I couldn't make it. And that's like my one regret. Like I couldn't make it, right? So, but before we get to the Seswa recipe, the other thing that's super important, when you go to most companies, who is the first person you meet at that company? You meet the security guard and then reception. Sometimes you meet them together, right? And often, is the security guard on your payroll? No, he works for another company. So his orientation with coming into your space often didn't include, this is Mascom, this is our brand promise, right? Everybody that comes into the parking, you know, I don't know, give them the Mascom wave or give them the Mascom high five, right? So often our third-party service providers have not been inducted into our way of doing things. They haven't been told by our DNA, what our DNA is, right? They haven't been told what our secret sauce is. And often I can tell you, Marley and I have had some very interesting experiences, right? Where you need to give your ID to security and they keep it while you're at the meeting, right? How does that freak someone out? I mean, I did work for the Egyptian Defense Force. People, that was terrible, right? I had to be searched. I had to be x-rayed. I don't know, they even did a complete security clearance on me where they checked my whole family and made sure that we're not a bunch of weirdos that get angry at their husbands and need to shake in the toilet. Now they won't allow me there at all. All right, so it's really important that we look at our whole ecosystem, and we're going to be doing that this afternoon. Now, the recipe. First, we are engaging people in your organization. Marley's had some discussions with you. We're going to have further workshops and discussions with employees. We said we want to talk to employees that have been here a long time. We want to talk to employees that have been here a short time. And we want them to tell us, what does it look like from your seat? What does it look like from your perspective? Right, so we need to engage people. Tlamelo and Karabo has got an amazing project plan, right? And they are working on that project plan. This is very important that when you do this work, even though some of it might not feel that quantifiable, but it's important that you have a plan and that you stick to the discipline of the plan. Right, step 2, we want to evaluate the current position, right? You talked about the climate survey. We looked at your past employee engagement surveys, right? Because many people do engagement surveys every year. And then when we talk to employees, they go, no, our systems are broken, our processes are suboptimal, my boss doesn't understand me, and I get paid a poor salary. And then next year they tell you exactly the same things, right? So what happens in those environments, it's not always the company, right? It's not always the company. Sometimes it's just that people have settled into this victim mentality to say that the world is doing this to me. And I'm waiting for someone on a white horse to come and rescue me. And I can tell you, there ain't no white horse, because I spent many, many years in my career waiting for a white horse with some hero, superhero that was going to rescue me from a boss that really frustrated me. I just thought I was lucky that I got unlucky that I got a assholes for bosses, right? Until I became the boss. Then I realized, oh my word, the asshole is now with me. It is me all along. It was me, because I didn't take responsibility and ownership for the things that I should. So, as part of the Brand Warrior program, we want to teach your team skills so that they don't sit in this corner waiting for someone to change their life and make their life better. They've got to own it themselves, right? You don't have to love your job, but you've got to be proud of what you deliver to the world. That's two different things, right? You've got to be proud. So, I want to just maybe let you relax, right? You cannot pay someone to perform better. You cannot pay them. You can pay them more and more and more, and they're going to perform poorer. If you can find that piece of DNA that says, I'm proud right? I'm proud. I feel I served another human being in an incredible manner. Then they'll perform better. And I believe that this recipe and the Brand Warrior program that we're going to take your team through, we found that piece of DNA, right? And if we give a person the invitation and they accept the invitation, their life's going to become better. Right. Marilee and I, we are so, and I want to quickly just share with you, we're quite emotional about this because we donated a Brand Warrior program in collaboration with Learn to Lead to young leaders here in Botswana that are very ambitious. We gave them a full scholarship. We're meeting with them on Thursday. We've never seen a talent pool like that, right? Because this is not people where the company said to them, you must go to that program. Thou shalt go to that program, right? These are people. They fought for their places, right? They sent us videos. They went through this rigorous scholarship process, and that's a great talent pool for you guys, right? Because these people are hungry. They want more from life. They arrive not on time for the Brand Warrior program. They arrive 20 minutes beforehand, right? And they WhatsApp Marilee going, I want to come in the room, right? This is all on Zoom. I want to come in the room, Marilee. Have I got the right link, right? Because they want to come in the room, and that's that hunger. That's that hunger when you want more. So we're going to do a diagnostic this morning of where you find yourselves, right? We will play that diagnostic back to you, maybe not in the next 2 days, but we will play that diagnostic back to you because sometimes it's about the opinions and the outliers, right? If you say we are completely employee-centric, and another colleague says we're not employee-centric, then that means we don't have a consistent approach to that. Also, often, if you look at your complaints inside your organization, you're going to find amazing ways to fix your customer experience. Because I engage with complaints teams a lot, and I say, tell me in the last year, what was the percentage of completely new complaints that landed on your desk that you've never seen before? And they go quiet. And I go, is it difficult to calculate? They go, no, it's the same shit over and over and over again. And the reason why we don't deal with it better is because we never step back and say, let's design this. Right. So in your customer experience team, they got to take the 5 complaints that continuously burn people. And they've got to apply the methods that we're going to use on your employee experience, and they've got to design the pain out of it, right? Complaints teams, when they get a complaint, they should go, I've been waiting for this all day long. This is my jam. I know how to deal with this. Not, oh, not that again, right? And we've been able to transform complaints teams so that they go, this is a moment of misery. I know what to do here. I've got 3 options here. And they just listen to the customer and say, if I was in your position, I would probably be a little bit angrier. But I'm here to serve you. I'm here to solve this for you. Boom. And people go, Chantal, please, where did you get that language from? I go, I've been an angry customer many, many times, right? I spit on my daughter. I have this dinosaur in my passageway, right? I know what I want to hear, and you all know what you want to hear as a customer. So just get off the process wagon and get off the scripts and just make a human connection. And then you'll have the words. You'll know what to say next. All right, so that's on customer experience. Now, I get excited about this extraction, right? It sounds like pulling a teeth, but I promise you it's going to be a heck of a lot more fun than pulling a teeth. We want to, over the next 2 days, find that essence, right? Find your experience ethos that you want to exist in your organization. Now, I get the privilege to travel a lot, and I'm going to quickly tell you about who loves chili, who loves spicy things. Okay, there's a few people. Now, in Rwanda, you get a chili oil called akabanga. They take, he knows the story. So they take these bell peppers and they smoke them, and then they extract this oil. I first had it in a hotel, and it was weird because the little bottle, eyedropper bottle, was standing on the table with some paper towels wrapped around it. And I looked at that and I went like, that's weird in a hotel. And I called over the waiter. I said, dude, that doesn't look good. What's going on with this? He goes, no. Have you had it? I go, no, I'm not touching that. He goes, it's akabanga. I said, well, why do you wrap the paper around it? He says, because you don't want to touch the bottle. Because if you touch the bottle and you then touch your eye or some sensitive skin, then you're going to be in trouble. And the bottle has a little warning on it to say 4 drops only, right? I got so addicted to akabanga, right? When I came through customs, they didn't believe me that it was just chili oil because I had a whole stash with me. I used to keep it in my handbag, right? Wrapped in the paper towel in a Ziploc bag, right? I used to go and eat because I wanted to have akabanga. No, really, it has a chemical release in your brain that makes you feel so much better. So, what we want to do for you is find your akabanga. We want you to find your akabanga, and then we can drop that akabanga on people. We can drop it. Your customer experience team can take that akabanga. They can put it into your customer journeys so that if I strip off your logo and I don't see Mascom, BTC, I don't see any logos, any colors, I know that it's distinctly you. Because if you put that akabanga in another bottle, you take off that logo, and I taste that akabanga, I'm going to know. And I'm going to be happy, right? I'm going to feel the satisfaction that this is my akabanga. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing for you in the next 2 days, is finding that akabanga. And then it's about elevating. So in elevating, we want to understand, who are we creating these journeys for? You're going to do some employee personas. We're going to look at how can we take the barriers out of the environment, right? Because when you do changes like this, you're going to find some limitations. You're going to find some barriers. And then it's about evolving. And I believe some of you will be joining us later this year for the first intake of the Brand Warrior program. And after that, your leadership teams will have an opportunity to go through the program and start embedding this. Start combining the akabanga with what are some of the skills we need to maintain this. All right, so that is essentially the recipe. Let me just do a bit of a time check. Questions of anything you've seen? Questions? So there's obviously tone, right? Tone, and then there is the approach I take to emails, right? I'm going to share a little story with you. So once I had a project sponsor who was much more senior than what I was, and I got an email from her, and I read that email, and I thought, WTF. I also closed my office door and I said it out loud. And then I spent 2 hours crafting a response, right? But when I crafted this response, you know that the keyboards have a beautiful sound, right? But when I crafted this response, the keyboard sound was loud and aggressive, right? Someone came into my office, they said, are you angry? I go like, what do you think? Like, you know? So I crafted this response. Then I read the response. Then I put it in my drafts folder for a day, you know? It's like keeping an egg under a chicken for a day, just to see like what's going to hatch, right? It wasn't a chicken. It was a violent animal that was going to hatch, right? then overnight, my grandma said sleep on things. She said, like, I don't know, my grandma slept a lot. But she said, like, when you want to make a decision or, you know, when you get to kind of a crossroads in a relationship, you need to sleep on it, right? So I slept on this email, and I got up the next day and I read the email and I went like, oh, this is probably not going to turn out well for my career, right? Because she's on Exco. She was a total bitch in the email that she sent me, right? So I was totally justified in, you know, crafting this with loud keyboard sounds. And then I thought, no, wait, let's do this differently. I made an appointment with her. And I printed out her email. And I got to her office and I said, Karen, I'm so grateful. I completely calmed down, right? Karen, I'm so grateful that you could see me. When I received your email, I made a lot of assumptions. And I'm here to do the best possible for this project. So I was thinking you could read through the email for me and clarify all my assumptions. Do you think she read the email loud to me? She couldn't. She couldn't. So she said, can we start over? I said, that's music to my ears. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to give you the best possible outcomes. I'm a tool in your toolbox, right? And I'm here to achieve success for your project. Let's start over. Tell me, what are the concerns you have? What are the risks you see that I don't see? What would you like us to do to take some of these stumbling blocks out of that? Do you get what I'm telling you, right? Sometimes we react from this fight, flight, full of cortisol, right? We don't build relationships. And she said things to me on that email that she would never say to me in person because she wouldn't have the courage, because she was rude. She was passive-aggressive and she was rude. And somehow people think that's okay in emails, but it's really not okay. So since then, I've printed a lot of emails, made a lot of appointments, and said to people, I don't want to take your email the wrong way. Let's work through this. And often it's a deficit of skills, right? And somehow we think that when we write a demanding email, someone's going to respond to that, right? And my new book on Amazon, which I think is going to be a bestseller, by the way, it's called How Not to Be an Asshole on Email. Because I think I'm overqualified to write that book because I have been an asshole on email my entire life, right? And I think just it's a deficit of skills, and it's a deficit of actually understanding the science of how you make people feel about themselves, right? If I make you feel great about yourself, I promise you, you're going to scan your inbox and go, oh, he's an email from Chantal. You know, the emails I get from her is thought through. She's to the point. She tells me what she needs, and she has respect for me. So that's how you get your emails read. But we didn't come to these 2 days for me to train you on how not to be an asshole on email. That is another program which we can organize if you believe that it's necessary. Please go for it.
Emails that are sent sometimes.
You know what? I think there's a little bit of ignorance, right? And when people do their emails, I feel it's like, you know, the people that are really good at ping pong, they just go, and email is like a adventure sport that we're very poorly equipped for, right? And when do people do emails? When they're done with all of their meetings, right? I've gotten emails from some of you. I'm not going to make eye contact with anyone right now, but I've gotten emails from you. Wait, let me do this. I've gotten emails from you at 11 o'clock at night. I've gotten emails from you at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm not looking at anyone. Okay? At 11 o'clock at night, you do not have the emotional energy to be nice in an email. Okay, you depleted it through the day, unless you're sleeping at the office and only starting the job at 2 o'clock, right? But you don't have the emotional, you don't have, even if you are super aware and emotionally intelligent, you just, the tank is empty at 11 o'clock at night, right? So I think that's what happens. People just bat. I want to get this email box empty. I'm just going to answer people short. The people I can answer fast. Yes, do that. No, do that. No, like, read that report. No, send me that. No, send me that. And you look like an asshole. Okay, so that's my...
I'm not speaking as a victim.
You're speaking... Both. Both. I've been a bully on email, a terrible bully. Marley will tell you, when I'm tired and sick, right? I'm a bully. And then I have to, Marley, WhatsApp, voice message, Marley, I just sent you an email. It was very quickly, like, Marley, it was between this meeting and that meeting. I was actually in the car, right? And I have diarrhea and my period at the same time. Marley, please forgive me, like... Is the product the same? Okay, so where can you differentiate? With your incredible service when a customer wants to buy from you, and with how you make employees feel about themselves. Confident, successful, you care. And that you prioritize their growth. That's where you can differentiate. And that's not difficult, because I can tell you many people in the marketplace, they just don't want high-maintenance employees that complain all the time, and they don't want attrition, and they don't want new joiners to join every 3 months. There's 50 new people, right? That's expensive, and it's difficult processes to manage. Yes. So let me, if you will allow me, just to kind of engage with you a little bit. Do you think I care about you? All right, but you're now thinking from here. In your heart, do you feel like I care about you?
The little bit of interactions we've had, yes, I think.
All right. Do you trust me?
Again, based on the interactions, yes, I do.
All right. How do you know that?
The interactions we've had. That's all I'm basing it on.
He's feeling a feeling in his brain, in the part of his brain that cannot speak language. So he cannot tell you, he cannot articulate how he knows that I care, and I do care about you, right? I care about how I make you feel, and I care about deeply about how successful you could be as a result of maybe something I said, or maybe an exercise I took you through. But the caring is a heart caring. And that's why he struggles to articulate with that part of his brain where he feels the trust, right? That is an approach to people. That is when you open yourself up to give people a gift, right? I'm here to serve you. That's my only purpose on this earth for the next 2 days, is to be here to serve you and to make you successful. And that's how you shift it. That's how you shift it, with a commitment, with a purpose, with a pride in the work that in the work that we're going to do together. Because I want you to feel incredibly proud of what you've done here the next 2 days, and I want to share a little bit in that scoop of pride. So colleagues, I know that I wish that there was just a science or an injection, but some of it has to do with skills, with self-awareness, and with our commitment to our purpose. You've got to be proud, people. Otherwise, work is suffering, right? We're not here to suffer, but often we suffer. Yo, I've spent years suffering, right? And I'm not saying that some days I'm not suffering, but I make sure I take ownership. Yo, you give me financial spreadsheets, yo, I suffer, right? But I go, let me do this quickly, because then I get to the good stuff, like we're doing today. Yes. So, I mean, let's just be real about that, right? You can't underpay someone and let them suffer and then expect the best performance, right? That doesn't go like, you know, none of us are like charities, right? When we do good work and we receive a fair remuneration, then we can do charity stuff, right? That's what we're doing with Learn to Lead. It's because we have amazing clients like you that pay us on time, right? So we can give away. But if you don't, so you need to pay someone enough so that you get money off the table, right? But often money is a smokescreen for other things. I had a psychologist, and I would go and talk to him, and he'd go like, your anger, what is it a smokescreen for? And I go, don't talk shit with me. I pay you. Like, I pay you. Like, he goes, what is it a smokescreen for? I say, okay, you got me. It's fear. Behind anger, there's always something else, right? Yeah. And behind money, if you feel you're paying a market-related salary, if someone complains about money, it's a smokescreen. Potential unhappiness, potential imposter syndrome, potential lack of growth, right? Recognition, just saying, thank you for that report you sent me on time. It was amazing. You made me look really good in front of Happy. I'm so glad. And getting back to your question about the email, right? Your email is a portrayal of your brand. And often we haven't sat long enough to think about, this is my PR. This is saying who I am, right? And sometimes we have a bad day, right? Everybody has a bad day. But if you think about, how do I show up in the world? What is my personal brand? And if you can align a person's personal purpose with the purpose at work, that's when you get just massive impact. You need to create that awareness, right? Because many people, Marley and I we've had short on like 2,000 people through the Brand Warrior program. Often they come to us with autopilot on, right? They're completely on autopilot. They're so deep in that corner. My boss is terrible. My team, they let me down. I don't get paid enough. My systems are broken. My processes are broken. And we go like, is anything working for you? No. I go like, why don't you do? I don't have a choice. I go, not saying not having a choice is actually choosing. Mm-hmm. So it's about that awareness and about developing people's skills. And often, they have this internal narrative. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. You see, this is how my boss speaks to me. I'm not good enough. And their self-confidence erodes so much that they won't come out of the corner. So sometimes just getting them, let's build them up. If someone's growing, I had a CEO once that said to me, Chantal, we don't have the kind of money that you charge, but would you just give me a bit of parting advice? And go, I'm incredibly generous. You know what? I'll give you lots of advice. Like, what do you want to do? He goes like, I want to have my people more engaged. Like, I want a vibe here that's like, just like people feel like they have more energy. I go, I have got the perfect plan for you, right? It's not going to cost you a lot of money. You know what? Let your people each start a hobby and give them an hour a week of your work time to practice their hobby. He goes, and people pay you for this advice? I go, yes. I go, listen to me carefully, right? It's going to cost you an hour a week for people to practice a hobby at work. They're going to think you're awesome, right? Next time you call them at 2 o'clock in the morning, they're going to take your phone call, right? They are going to go into learning. You're going to build new pathways in their brain, right? They're going to become more energetic for life. They're going to become smarter. They're going to have interesting things to talk about. So I'm going to talk about my knitting. You're going to talk about your scrapbooking. Sorry, I'm picking this. You're going to talk about the new, your furniture building, right? And all of a sudden, people are going to care about what the others are doing. He goes, I'm not so sure about that. What if they abuse the work time? I go, you don't think they're abusing work time at the moment? No. I can go into any toilet and catch people playing Candy Crush or being on Facebook in the toilet, right? I go, so I'm not saying let people practice a hobby, but the principle around like people growing, getting them out of the corner, if they grow, they become more interesting, they become more energetic. And what I say often to compliance teams, I go and I say, what do you do here at the company? They go, We're the poop scoopers. We deal with customer shit. And I go, and who are you serving? They go, well, I'm securing my own sanity, right? And the customer, but by the time the customer gets to me, like, I can't do anything for them, right? And if we reframe that and saying, you know what? You're serving your own reputation in how you deal with this, because we get measured when the chips are down, right? You know, when all is la 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 and everything's going well, you know, people are assessing us. Oh, Tlamella's a nice person. But sure, when the chips are down, people show their real colors, right? So it's about establishing that personal reputation and then bringing it closer to home to say, you know what, actually, your job is to keep those things off the CEO's desk. There should never be an escalation that lands on the CEO's desk. How are we going to make that happen? Because you like her, right? You want to serve her, right? You don't want her to sit at 11 o'clock tonight, seeing that she pays you well, right? You don't want to sit at 11 o'clock at night that she deals with this, right? And if we create that community of, listen, I'm serving you and you serving her and they serving, and we serve each other and we serve the customer in the process. Then we become, people have said to me in these big call center environments, I'm taking my vitamins because I cannot become sick, right? If I become sick, my team suffer, right? I'm not going to take a sick day unless I really need one because my team's going to suffer. So we don't, sometimes the customer is too far removed. We need to bring it closer to home and say, my team care about me. I don't want them to suffer. And I'm going to serve them because that's closer, right? If I'm stressed, she's going to feel it, right? If I'm happy, she's going to feel it. If we together protect our happiness together, then we can be a powerful team.